The kingdom of Arkenvale had once been known as the Jewel of the Wolf Realms. Its forests stretched endlessly beneath silver moons. Its rivers glittered like liquid crystal. Its cities stood tall behind ancient walls built by generations of Alpha Kings. The great packs lived in harmony, united under one banner, protected by warriors whose loyalty was stronger than steel. But all of that was gone. Now the kingdom burned. Flames swallowed villages that had stood for centuries. The cries of grieving mothers echoed through ruined streets. Warriors who once fought side by side now hunted each other across blood-soaked battlefields. And at the heart of it all stood two brothers, twin Alpha brothers, born beneath the same moon, raised by the same king, destined to rule together, yet somehow transformed into each other's greatest enemy. The older twin, Alpha Kael, commanded the armies of the north. His black wolf was feared throughout the realm. Countless warriors followed him without question, believing he was the rightful heir to the throne. The younger twin, Alpha Draven, ruled the south with equal strength. His silver wolf had become a symbol of rebellion, vengeance, and war. His followers would gladly die for him. For 10 long years, the brothers had waged war against one another. 10 years of bloodshed, 10 years of betrayal, 10 years of hatred. Neither side could remember what peace felt like anymore. On a cold night beneath a crimson moon, the final battle was about to begin. Thousands of warriors gathered across the Valley of Fallen Kings. The ground itself seemed cursed. Broken swords protruded from the earth. Ancient shields lay buried beneath mud and blood. The spirits of countless dead wolves seemed to linger in the darkness, silently watching as history prepared to repeat itself. Kael sat atop his massive black warhorse, staring across the battlefield. His golden eyes burned with determination. Scars covered his face, reminders of battles fought against the one person he had once loved more than anyone else, his brother. A few hundred yards away stood Draven. The silver-armored Alpha looked equally exhausted. Years of war had hardened him. The warmth that once filled his heart had long since disappeared. Only anger remained, only revenge. The wind howled between them. For a brief moment, neither brother moved, neither spoke. Yet both remembered. They remembered racing through palace gardens as children. They remembered hunting together beneath the moonlight. They remembered promising their dying father that they would protect the kingdom side by side. Promises now buried beneath mountains of corpses. A horn suddenly sounded from the northern lines. Another answered from the south. The battlefield trembled. Thousands of wolves prepared to charge. This was it. The war that had nearly destroyed the entire realm was about to claim its final victims. But then, the sky changed. Dark clouds gathered from nowhere. Lightning flashed across the heavens. A powerful wind swept through the valley. Every warrior froze. Every wolf lifted their head toward the sky. Even the twin alphas felt it. Something ancient. Something impossible. Something they had not felt in many years. Hope. A strange golden light appeared on the distant horizon. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a star. Then it grew brighter, closer, stronger. The light moved toward the battlefield, toward the armies, toward the brothers. Fear spread among the soldiers. Whispers passed through the ranks. Some dropped their weapons. Others fell to their knees, because they all knew the ancient prophecy, a prophecy older than the kingdom itself. The prophecy of the Chosen One. Legend spoke of a woman blessed by the moon goddess, a woman destined to return when darkness consumed the realm, a woman whose heart would determine the fate of kings. Many believed she was only a myth, Others claimed she had died long ago. Yet, as the golden light approached, those beliefs began to crumble. Far away, hidden beyond the mountains, a lone figure stood upon a cliff overlooking the kingdom. Her silver hair danced in the wind, moonlight shimmered across her skin, ancient power flowed through her veins. The kingdom had not seen her in years. Most believed she had vanished forever. But destiny had finally called her home, and she could feel it. The war, the suffering, the countless lives lost. Most of all, she could feel the pain inside two hearts that had once belonged to loving brothers. A single tear rolled down her cheek, because she knew something no one else did. The war between Kael and Draven had never been caused by power. It had never truly been about the throne. It had started because of love. A love so powerful that it had shattered a family. A love so dangerous that it had nearly destroyed an entire kingdom. And now she was returning to face the truth that could either save the realm or plunge it into an even greater darkness. As the armies stared toward the approaching light, neither Kael nor Draven realized that their lives were about to change forever. The final chapter of their war was beginning. The chosen one was coming home. And with her return would come love, betrayal, sacrifice, redemption, and a destiny written by the moon goddess herself. But could one woman heal a kingdom torn apart by hatred? Could she stop two Alpha brothers from destroying everything they once swore to protect? Or would her return ignite a conflict even deadlier than the war itself? Stay until the end to discover how a forgotten prophecy, a forbidden love, and the return of the chosen one changed the fate of an entire kingdom forever. And if you enjoy epic Alpha King romances filled with destiny, betrayal, and unforgettable love stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible adventures. Long before the kingdom was consumed by war, long before villages burned beneath crimson skies, long before the names Kael and Draven became symbols of fear across the realm, they were simply brothers, not rivals, not enemies. Brothers. The twin princes were born during the rare celestial moon, a night that appeared only once every 1,000 years. The entire kingdom celebrated their arrival. The royal seers declared it a blessing from the moon goddess herself. King Aldrich, their father, believed their birth marked the beginning of a golden age. The kingdom has been given 2 heirs instead of 1, he proudly announced before the gathered packs. Together, they will accomplish what no ruler has ever achieved alone. From their earliest days, Kael and Draven were inseparable. They learned to walk together, they trained together, they hunted together. When one laughed, the other laughed. When one hurt, the other felt the pain. Their bond was so strong that many believed they shared a single soul, divided between 2 bodies. Though identical in appearance, their hearts were very different. Kael was the calm one, thoughtful, patient. He listened before speaking and preferred solving conflicts through wisdom rather than force. The people admired him because he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a future king. Draven, however, was fire itself. Bold, passionate, fearless. He rushed into danger without hesitation and possessed a charm that made others naturally follow him. Where Kael brought stability, Draven brought inspiration. Together they were perfect. Together they were unstoppable. The kingdom loved them equally. As the years passed, their father trained them to rule side by side. Every lesson reinforced the same message. The realm is strongest when the 2 of you stand united. King Aldrich often repeated those words. A single wolf may lead a pack, but 2 wolves who trust each other can change the world. The brothers believed him. Neither desired more power than the other. Neither cared who eventually wore the crown. Their greatest dream was simply protecting the kingdom together. For many years, that dream seemed destined to come true. Then, everything changed. It happened during the Festival of Silver Moons, a celebration held once every decade when representatives from every pack gathered in the capital. The city overflowed with music, laughter, and excitement. Warriors competed in grand tournaments. Merchants filled the streets. Nobles traveled from distant lands. And among the arriving guests was a young woman unlike anyone the brothers had ever seen. Her name was Lyra, the daughter of a respected healer from the Eastern Territories. No one knew then that she would change the course of history forever. The moment Kael saw her, something stirred inside him. She stood among a crowd of strangers, helping an injured child who had fallen during the festivities. While others rushed past, she knelt patiently beside the child, comforting him with gentle words. There was kindness in her eyes, compassion in her smile, a quiet strength that immediately captured Kael's attention. For reasons he could not explain, he found himself unable to look away. At nearly the same moment, Draven noticed her too. But unlike Kael, who admired her from afar, Draven approached her immediately. Within minutes, they were laughing together. Within hours, they seemed like lifelong friends. For the first time in their lives, the twins wanted the same thing. And neither realized it. At first, it seemed harmless. The brothers spent time with Lyra separately. Kael shared long conversations with her beneath moonlit gardens. They discussed books, dreams, and the future of the kingdom. She admired his wisdom, his patience, his kindness. Draven, meanwhile, took her riding through forests and mountains. He showed her hidden waterfalls and secret places few people knew existed. She admired his courage, his passion, his adventurous spirit. Without meaning to, Lyra began falling for both sides of what felt like the same extraordinary soul, and both brothers slowly fell in love with her. Months passed, then years. The feelings grew stronger, yet neither twin confessed his love, not because they feared rejection, but because they feared hurting each other. Their bond remained more important than their hearts, at least for a while. Then fate intervened. One evening, during a royal banquet, King Aldrich made an announcement that shocked the kingdom. His health was failing. The time had come to officially name an heir. The celebration immediately turned tense. For the first time, people began comparing the brothers. Nobles chose sides. Generals whispered opinions. Political factions emerged where none had existed before. Some supported Kael, others supported Draven. The kingdom that had once viewed the twins as equals suddenly demanded a choice. One king, one throne, one future ruler. Although the brothers publicly dismissed the growing division, seeds of doubt had already been planted, and certain people within the court saw opportunity. Among them was Lord Malric, a powerful nobleman whose ambition exceeded his loyalty. For years he had dreamed of controlling the throne from the shadows. A united pair of alpha rulers would make that impossible. But divided brothers? That could be exploited. Malric began spreading rumors. Small lies at first. Whispers that Kael secretly desired soul power. Claims that Draven intended to challenge his brother's right to rule. Nothing obvious. Nothing that could easily be traced back to him. Just enough poison to slowly infect trust. The brothers initially ignored the gossip, yet even the strongest bond can weaken under constant pressure. Then came the night that changed everything. King Aldrich suddenly collapsed. The royal healers fought desperately to save him. For days, the kingdom held its breath. Finally, word spread that the king was dying. Kael and Draven rushed to their father's bedside. The old king looked frail, far older than either remembered. With his final strength, he grasped both their hands. His voice was weak, but his message was clear. "Promise me." The twins leaned closer. "Promise me you will remain brothers." Tears filled their eyes. "We promise," Kael whispered. "No matter what," Draven added. The king smiled. For a moment, peace returned to his face. Then he closed his eyes for the final time. The kingdom mourned, but while the people grieved, darkness moved. Within days, forged letters began appearing. Secret messages, supposedly written by one brother against the other. False witnesses emerged. Lies multiplied. And at the center of it all stood Lyra. Someone manipulated evidence to make it appear that she had secretly chosen one brother over the other. Worse still, it appeared that the chosen brother had hidden the truth. Misunderstandings became arguments. Arguments became accusations. Accusations became wounds neither knew how to heal. For the first time in their lives, Kael and Draven looked at each other and saw uncertainty. The trust that had taken decades to build began cracking apart. Neither brother wanted to believe the rumors. Neither wanted to doubt Lyra. Yet every new piece of false evidence deepened the divide. The kingdom felt the tension growing. Pacts started preparing for conflict. Allies began choosing sides. And then came the final betrayal. A betrayal so devastating that it shattered what remained of their bond. One terrible night, Lyra disappeared without a trace. No explanation. No farewell. No body. Nothing. Only questions. Questions that neither brother could answer. Questions that would haunt them for years. Kael believed Draven knew more than he admitted. Draven suspected Kael had hidden the truth. Pain became suspicion. Suspicion became anger. Anger became hatred. And hatred eventually became war. The brothers who once swore to protect each other now swore to defeat each other. The kingdom watched in horror as destiny twisted into tragedy. The twin Alpha brothers had been born to unite the realm. Instead, they stood on the path toward destroying it, and neither realized that the woman they both loved, the woman whose disappearance had torn them apart, was still alive, waiting for the day destiny would call her home once again. For 10 long years, the kingdom searched for answers. 10 years of war, 10 years of grief, 10 years of wondering what had truly happened to the woman whose disappearance had shattered the bond between the twin Alpha brothers. To the people of the realm, Lyra had become little more than a legend. Some believed she had been murdered. Others believed she had fled the kingdom to escape the growing conflict. Many claimed the moon goddess herself had taken her away. As the years passed, stories replaced facts. Rumors became myths. And eventually, most accepted that they would never learn the truth. But the truth was far more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. Lyra had not died. She had not abandoned the kingdom. She had been taken. On the night she disappeared, shadow warriors loyal to a secret enemy had captured her, deep within the royal forest. Their orders had been simple. Remove her from the kingdom before the prophecy could be fulfilled. Because unknown to Kael, Draven, or even Lyra herself, she was far more than the woman they loved. She was the chosen one. The child spoken of in ancient prophecies. The woman destined to determine the fate of the entire realm. The enemies hidden in the shadows knew this. and they feared what her return would mean, so they erased her from history, or at least they tried. After being taken across distant mountains and forbidden territories, Lyra eventually escaped her captors. Wounded and alone, she wandered for days through lands untouched by the kingdom's influence. She survived storms, starvation, predators, and dangers that would have killed most others. Yet somehow, she endured, as if an unseen force guided her steps, as if destiny itself refused to let her fall. Everything changed the day she collapsed beside the frozen banks of the Silverwind River. Her strength was gone. Her body could no longer continue. Darkness consumed her vision. For a moment, she believed she would die there. Then she heard a voice. A man's voice. Dangerous place to fall asleep. When she opened her eyes, she found herself staring into the face of a stranger. Or at least, someone who appeared to be one. He was tall, broad-shouldered. His dark hair moved with the wind. A faded scar crossed one side of his face, giving him the appearance of a warrior who had survived countless battles. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. Calm, steady, kind, the eyes of someone carrying hidden pain. His name was Rowan, and from that moment forward, neither of their lives would ever be the same. Rowan lived in a remote valley hidden beyond the northern mountains. Few people knew the settlement existed. Those who did rarely spoke of it. The valley was home to exiles, wanderers, and survivors seeking refuge from the conflicts of the outside world. There, no one cared about royal bloodlines. No one cared about politics. People simply lived. For the first time since her disappearance, Lyra felt safe. Rowan helped nurse her back to health. Day after day, he remained by her side, never demanding answers, never forcing her to reveal her past. He simply offered kindness. And after everything she had endured, that kindness felt like a gift. Weeks turned into months. Months slowly became years. The bond between them deepened naturally. Unlike the intense emotions she once felt in the royal court, this connection grew quietly, steadily. Like roots spreading beneath the earth. They worked together, laughed together, shared stories beside fires beneath moonlit skies. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself to imagine a future. A simple future, a peaceful future, one that had nothing to do with prophecies, kingdoms, or war. A future with Rowan. Yet destiny has a way of finding those who try to hide from it. One evening, while walking through an ancient forest near the valley, Lyra experienced something impossible. A strange pulse of energy surged through her body. The ground trembled beneath her feet. Golden light erupted from her hands. The surrounding trees seemed to respond to her presence. Flowers bloomed instantly despite the cold season. The wind itself appeared to obey her emotions. Terrified, she stumbled backward. She had never witnessed anything like it, but Rowan had. His expression changed the moment he saw the golden light, not with fear, with recognition, as though he had been expecting this day for a very long time. That night, he finally revealed a secret he had kept hidden since the day they met. Their meeting had not been entirely accidental. Years earlier, Rowan had been entrusted with a sacred duty by an ancient order devoted to protecting the Chosen One. For generations, his family had served as guardians of the prophecy. When reports emerged of a young woman matching the prophecy's description vanishing from the kingdom, Rowan had begun searching. He found her by chance beside the river. Or perhaps fate had guided him there. Either way, he had recognized her immediately. The golden energy only confirmed what he already suspected. Lyra was the chosen one. The revelation shook her to her core. She wanted to reject it, to deny it. She had spent years trying to escape her past. Now she discovered that her future carried an even greater burden. Yet despite the fear and uncertainty, Rowan remained beside her, as he always had. "You don't have to face this alone," he told her. The simple sincerity in his voice nearly brought her to tears. Because for years she had felt alone. Now she wasn't. Their love deepened after that night. No longer built solely on companionship, but on trust, on understanding, on shared purpose. They became inseparable. The people of the valley often joked that even the moon seemed brighter whenever they walked together. For a brief time, happiness finally seemed possible, but beyond the mountains, the kingdom continued to bleed. News occasionally reached the valley, reports of battles, destroyed villages, fallen warriors. Entire packs wiped out during the war between Kael and Draven. Each story weighed heavily on Lyra's heart. She remembered the brothers they once were, the men who had protected her, the men who had once loved her. It pained her to imagine what they had become. One winter night, unable to sleep, she climbed to a ridge overlooking the distant horizon. Far away, beyond countless miles, faint fires illuminated the darkness. Signs of another battle. Another tragedy. Another reminder that the realm she once called home was dying. Rowan found her there. Without speaking, he wrapped a cloak around her shoulders. For several minutes, neither said a word. Then Lyra finally whispered the question she had been avoiding for years. "What if I'm meant to stop this?" Rowan looked toward the distant fires. "You are." The answer came without hesitation. She lowered her head. "What if I fail?" He gently took her hand. "Then you'll fail trying to save people. There is no shame in that." His words lingered in the cold air. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to accept what her heart had known all along. She could not remain hidden forever. The kingdom needed her. The prophecy was awakening, and no matter how much she wished for a peaceful life, destiny was calling her home. Days later, the final sign arrived. A vision. One unlike anything she had ever experienced. The moon goddess appeared before her in a dream of silver light. Around them stood ruins consumed by fire. The kingdom lay broken. The twin brothers stood on opposite sides of a battlefield covered in blood. And between them stood Lyra. The goddess spoke only a few words, yet they changed everything. The time has come. When Lyra awoke, she knew what she had to do. The war had reached its final chapter. The realm stood on the brink of destruction, and somewhere beyond the mountains, two brothers still carried wounds created by lies, betrayal, and lost love. The chosen one could no longer hide, but leaving meant risking everything, including the life she had built with Rowan. As dawn broke across the valley, Lyra prepared for the journey she had avoided for 10 years. What she did not know was that her return would uncover secrets buried in darkness. Secrets powerful enough to expose the true enemy behind the war. Secrets capable of saving the kingdom or destroying every person she loved. And as she began the long journey home, Rowan made a silent promise. No matter what awaited them in the kingdom, no matter how dangerous the path became, he would never leave her side. Because some loves are born from destiny, but the strongest loves are the ones people choose for themselves. And Rowan had chosen Lyra long before he ever knew he was falling in love with the chosen one. The journey back to the kingdom took nearly a month, A month of crossing frozen mountains, ancient forests, and forgotten roads swallowed by time. With every mile, Lyra felt the weight of destiny growing heavier upon her shoulders. The peaceful valley she and Rowan had called home slowly faded behind them. Ahead waited uncertainty. Ahead waited war. Ahead waited the ghosts of a life she had once lost. Many nights, Lyra found herself staring into the fire while memories returned uninvited. She remembered the palace gardens, the laughter she once shared with Kael, the adventures she once experienced with Draven. A lifetime ago, she had cared deeply for both brothers. Not in the same way, not with the same intensity, but each had held a place within her heart. Kael had been her comfort, Draven had been her excitement. Together, they had represented everything beautiful about the kingdom she once loved. Now they were destroying it, and she was returning to stop them. As they neared the borderlands, signs of the war became impossible to ignore. Entire villages stood abandoned. Fields had been burned. Homes lay in ruins. Children wandered roads searching for families that would never return. The suffering was far worse than anything Lyra had imagined. Everywhere she looked, she saw evidence of the brothers' conflict. Not because either brother was evil, but because hatred had blinded them both. The kingdom was paying the price. One afternoon, Lyra and Rowan stopped in a small settlement recently devastated by battle. The villagers recognized neither of them. Yet when Lyra began helping the injured, something extraordinary happened. Her powers awakened again. Golden light flowed from her hands. Wounds closed. Pain faded. Strength returned to the weak. The villagers stared in disbelief. Some fell to their knees. Others began whispering. The prophecy, the chosen one, the moon goddess has sent her back. News spread faster than wildfire. Within days, stories of a mysterious woman healing the wounded traveled across the realm. Pack after pack heard the rumors. Soon, the whispers reached the armies themselves. And eventually, they reached the twin Alpha brothers. Kael heard the rumors while reviewing battle plans inside his command tent. The moment he heard the description, his heart nearly stopped. A woman with silver hair, golden healing light, eyes like moonlit stars. It was impossible. It couldn't be. For 10 years he had mourned her. For 10 years he had convinced himself she was gone forever. Yet something deep inside him refused to dismiss the possibility. Hope, a feeling he had not experienced in years, began to stir. Across the kingdom, Draven received the same report. Unlike Kael, his first reaction was anger. Not because he hated Lyra, but because losing her had become the greatest wound of his life. The possibility of her return terrified him. What if she truly lived? What if everything he believed about her disappearance was a lie? What if the war had been built upon falsehoods? Questions he had spent years avoiding suddenly returned with overwhelming force. Neither brother realized that destiny was already moving them toward an unavoidable collision. The moment finally arrived in the city of White Hollow, a neutral territory caught between the northern and southern armies. Thousands of refugees had gathered there seeking protection. When a deadly sickness began spreading through the city, panic erupted. The local healers could do little to stop it. People were dying every day. Then Lyra arrived. Standing before the city's frightened citizens, she called upon powers she barely understood. Golden light erupted across the streets. The sickness faded. The weak recovered. Hope returned. The crowd erupted into tears and celebration. Many openly declared her the chosen one. Others believed the moon goddess herself had answered their prayers. But among the crowd stood two men who could barely believe what they were seeing. Kael and Draven. For the first time in 10 years, the twin brothers found themselves in the same place. Not as allies, not as brothers, as enemies. Their armies stood nearby. Their guards watched carefully. One wrong move could trigger another battle. Yet none of that mattered when they saw her. Lyra, alive, standing before them. Time seemed to stop. The noise of the crowd disappeared. The world faded away. For several heartbeats, neither brother could speak. Neither could move. The woman they had both loved, the woman whose disappearance had destroyed everything, was standing only a few feet away. Kael's eyes filled with emotion. Draven's breathing became uneven. Neither Alpha looked like a king in that moment. They looked like two broken men confronting a miracle. Lyra, Kael whispered. The sound of her name carried years of grief, years of regret, years of longing. Draven said nothing at first. His silver eyes remained fixed on her, as though he feared she might vanish if he blinked. Lyra felt her own emotions threatening to overwhelm her. The brothers had changed. War had left scars upon them, not just physical scars, emotional ones. The confident young princes she remembered were gone. In their place stood men carrying the weight of countless tragedies. For a moment, she saw flashes of the boys they once were, and her heart broke. "You are alive," Kael said. It was not a question. It was disbelief made audible. "I am," Lyra replied softly. Draven finally stepped forward. "Where have you been?" His voice carried pain rather than anger. The question contained 10 years of unanswered suffering, 10 years of searching, 10 years of wondering why she had disappeared. Lyra looked at both brothers. "I didn't leave willingly." The words struck them like lightning. Everything changed. Every assumption, every accusation, every memory. If she had not left willingly, then someone had taken her. And if someone had taken her, then perhaps the foundation of their hatred had been built on lies. Neither brother spoke. Neither knew what to say. The possibility was too enormous to process. Yet before the conversation could continue, another figure approached. Rowan. The moment he stepped beside Lyra, both brothers noticed the way she looked at him, the way he looked at her, the quiet intimacy, the trust, the love. Kael immediately understood. Draven did too. Years ago, both brothers had imagined futures with Lyra. Now another man stood at her side. A man who clearly occupied the place they once hoped to hold. The realization reopened old wounds. Not because they still expected her love, but because it reminded them of everything they had lost. Rowan sensed the tension immediately. Yet he neither challenged nor threatened them. Instead, he offered respectful acknowledgement. He understood who they were, and more importantly, he understood how much pain stood between them and Lyra. The situation became even more complicated over the following days. As news of Lyra's return spread, people across the kingdom began rallying around her. For the first time in years, both northern and southern citizens agreed on something. They believed she represented hope, the symbol their broken realm desperately needed. Many begged her to help end the war. Others viewed her as the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy. Pressure mounted from every direction. Soon Lyra found herself caught between impossible responsibilities. The kingdom needed the chosen one. Kael needed answers. Draven needed truth, and Rowan simply wanted the woman he loved to survive what was coming. Yet despite everything, one thing became increasingly clear. The war could not continue. Not after her return, not after the questions she had raised, not after the possibility that both brothers had been manipulated from the beginning. For the first time in a decade, Kael and Draven agreed to a temporary ceasefire. It was fragile, uncertain, but it was a start. The kingdom celebrated. Hope spread like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Yet hidden within the shadows, someone watched with growing fear. Someone who had spent years ensuring the brothers remained enemies. Someone whose secrets were now in danger of being exposed. The true architect of the kingdom's suffering. The enemy who had orchestrated Lyra's disappearance. The enemy who had built an entire war upon deception. And now that Lyra had returned, that enemy was preparing to strike again. Because if the truth emerged, everything they had worked for would collapse. The war might be ending. But a far greater battle was only beginning. And this time, love itself stood at the center of the coming storm. For the first time in 10 years, the kingdom experienced something it had nearly forgotten. Silence. No battle horns. No marching armies. No villages burning in the distance. The temporary ceasefire between Kael and Draven had brought a fragile peace to the realm. Yet beneath that peace, tension simmered like a storm waiting to break. The people celebrated the return of the Chosen One. Refugees began returning home. Families reunited. Hope slowly spread through lands that had known nothing but suffering. But not everyone welcomed this new hope. Hidden within the royal court, concealed behind years of deception and carefully crafted lies, Lord Malric watched events unfold with growing panic. For over a decade, he had manipulated the kingdom from the shadows. He had forged letters, spread rumors, arranged kidnappings, bribed nobles, assassinated witnesses. Everything had been done for one purpose: power. The war between the twin Alpha brothers had never been an accident. It had been engineered. Carefully, patiently, cruelly. As long as Kael and Draven remained enemies, neither would notice the corruption spreading through the kingdom. Neither would discover who truly controlled the throne from behind the curtain. And now Lyra's return threatened to destroy everything. The Chosen One was asking questions. The brothers were beginning to trust each other again. Old secrets were surfacing. The web of lies Malric had spent years building was starting to unravel. And desperate men are often the most dangerous. One night, under the cover of darkness, Malric gathered his remaining allies inside an abandoned fortress hidden deep within the mountains. The meeting revealed a terrifying truth. He had never acted alone. Behind him stood an ancient faction known as the Shadow Fang, a secret organization that had existed for centuries. They believed the prophecy of the Chosen One would end their influence forever. For generations they had worked in secret, controlling rulers, manipulating kingdoms, and creating conflict whenever peace threatened their power. The civil war between Kael and Draven had been their greatest success, but now everything was changing. And the Shadow Fang had decided on a final solution. If they could not control the kingdom, they would destroy it. Meanwhile, Lyra worked tirelessly to heal the growing divide between the northern and southern packs. Every day she met with leaders from both sides. She listened to their pain, their fears, their anger. Many had lost family members during the war. Many carried wounds that would never fully heal. Yet wherever she went, people found themselves believing peace might still be possible, not because of her power, but because of her compassion. She refused to treat anyone as an enemy. She saw victims where others saw rivals. And slowly, hearts began to change. The same transformation was happening within Kael and Draven. For years, both men had carried enormous guilt. The return of Lyra forced them to confront truths they had spent a decade avoiding. Together, they began revisiting old memories, old evidence, old accusations. What they discovered horrified them. One lie led to another. One forged document exposed another deception. Witnesses previously believed dead were found alive. Hidden records surfaced. Piece by piece, the truth emerged. Neither brother had betrayed the other. Neither had caused Lyra's disappearance. Everything had been manipulated. Everything. The realization was devastating. 10 years. 10 years of hatred. 10 years of war. 10 years of unnecessary suffering. All because someone had turned them against each other. The knowledge nearly broke them. One evening, Kael and Draven stood together upon the palace balcony overlooking the capital. For the first time in years, they stood side by side rather than across a battlefield. Neither spoke for several moments. Finally, Draven broke the silence. "We destroyed everything." His voice was heavy with regret. Kael stared at the city below. "No." Draven looked at him. Kael continued, "We were manipulated, but the choices were still ours." The words hurt because they were true. Neither brother could erase the past. Neither could undo the lives lost. But perhaps they could still change the future. For the first time since childhood, they clasped forearms. Not as rivals, as brothers. The kingdom had waited 10 years for that moment. Unfortunately, their enemies were not waiting. Just days later, disaster struck. A messenger arrived carrying horrifying news. Several border fortresses had fallen overnight. Entire garrisons had vanished. Communication lines were severed. Villages near the eastern mountains were under attack. The Shadowfang had begun their final campaign. Unlike the Civil War, this enemy did not seek victory. They sought destruction. Their armies marched under banners black as midnight. Mercenaries, rogue wolves, dark sorcerers, assassins, fanatics. Thousands answered their call. Their goal was simple: kill the Chosen One, eliminate the twin alphas, burn the kingdom to the ground. The realm descended into chaos once more, but this time something was different. The northern and southern packs stood together. For the first time in a decade, Kael and Draven united their armies. Warriors who once fought each other now fought side by side. The kingdom finally remembered what true unity looked like. The final battle would take place at the Valley of Fallen Kings. The very battlefield where the brothers had nearly destroyed each other at the beginning of the story. Now they would return, not as enemies, as protectors, as the united leaders their father had always hoped they would become. The night before the battle, Lyra sat alone beside a quiet stream. The moon reflected across the water. She knew the coming battle would decide the fate of the realm. A familiar presence approached. "Rowan." Without speaking, he sat beside her. For a while, they simply watched the moonlight dance across the water. Then Lyra finally spoke. "I'm afraid." Rowan smiled softly. "So am I." She looked at him. "You don't sound afraid." He gently squeezed her hand. "That's because courage isn't the absence of fear." She smiled faintly. "It's moving forward despite it." Their eyes met. For a moment, the war disappeared. The kingdom disappeared. There was only them. two people who had found each other in the middle of chaos, two hearts bound together by choice rather than destiny. And beneath the silver moon, Rowan made a promise. If tomorrow becomes our last day, Lyra immediately shook her head. Don't. He smiled sadly. If tomorrow becomes our last day, I want you to know something. Tears formed in her eyes. I already know. I love you. The words hung in the night air. Simple, honest, real. Lyra leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. I love you too. Neither realized it would be the last peaceful moment they would share, because dawn brought war. The largest battle in the kingdom's history erupted beneath darkened skies. Thousands clashed across the valley. Steel met steel. Wolves battled wolves. The earth trembled beneath the chaos. Kael and Draven fought together at the front lines, back to back, just as they had trained as boys. Together they carved a path through enemy forces. Together they inspired their warriors. For the first time in years, they looked unstoppable. Yet deep within the battlefield, the true enemy waited. Lord Malric, desperate, cornered, consumed by hatred. He had one final plan. If he could not win, he would ensure no one else could either. Using ancient forbidden magic provided by the Shadow Fang, he unleashed a devastating attack aimed directly at Lyra. The blast tore through the battlefield. Warriors screamed warnings. Everything happened in seconds, too fast for anyone to react. Except Rowan. Without hesitation, without fear, without even considering another option, he moved, throwing himself between Lyra and the deadly strike. The explosion of dark energy shook the valley. Silence followed, then horror. Lyra's heart stopped. Rowan lay on the ground, motionless, broken. The man who had spent years protecting her had given everything to save her life. The battlefield seemed to freeze. Kael stared in shock. Draven lowered his weapon. Even their enemies hesitated, because everyone understood what had happened. A man had sacrificed himself for the woman he loved. Not for power. Not for glory. For love. Pure and selfless. And as Lyra rushed toward Rowan, tears streaming down her face, the kingdom watched the greatest act of courage it had ever witnessed. The battle was not over. The enemy was not defeated. But in that moment, everything changed. Because sacrifices like Rowan's create legends, and legends have the power to inspire entire kingdoms.